Welcome to the celestial void. We thought we knew war. We thought we knew what it meant to fight for survival against machines, against aliens, against ourselves. We were children playing in a sandbox. Now the adults have woken up and they are hungry. They are the Star-Devourers. They are not biological, they are primordial. They are entities composed of pre-universal entropy, massive clouds of sentient antimatter and void smoke that drift between galaxies, looking for warmth. When they find a star, they don't just block its light, they wrap themselves around it like a python and drink the fusion core dry. A system visited by a devourer doesn't just die, it freezes instantly. Planets crack into ice dust. Light itself is erased. The Typhon system was their latest target. Typhon Prime, a magnificent blue supergiant, was being consumed. The evacuation fleets were too slow. Billions were going to freeze in the dark in a matter of days. Conventional weapons against a Star-Devourer are like throwing pebbles at a tidal wave. You cannot shoot something that is already dead space. But the Federation Science Council realized that even cosmic horrors can get indigestion. If the entity wanted to eat the star's core, we would feed it something it couldn't swallow. They mobilized the 77th Stellar Injection Wing. The Supernova-Jockeys. We don't fly fighters. We fly gravity needles, ships that are 90% engine and heat shielding, built around a single massive cargo bay holding a hyperdense payload, HDP. The payload is a sphere of collapsed neutronium heavy enough to crack a planet. Our mission is a one-way trip into hell. Use the dying star's immense gravity well to slingshot past the event horizon of the Devourer's maw, punch through its semi-corporeal body, and inject the neutronium poison directly into the star's core while the entity is feeding. The resulting gravitational and fusion reaction should, theoretically, cause a localized supernova that blows the entity back into the void. I am Commander Jax Slingshot Rostova. And today we are going to give a god a stomach ache it won't survive. Wing status. Sound off. We are crossing the heliopause in 10 seconds. I roared over the comms. My voice was strained not by fear, but by the sheer G-force already pressing down on my chest. Lyra, green. Shields holding at 100%. That thing is, my god Jax, it's eating the light. Boomer, green. Payload is stable. Let's feed this bastard. We dropped out of warp on the edge of the Typhon system. The view was enough to stop your heart. Typhon Prime should have been blinding, but it was dim, flickering like a dying candle. Wrapped around its equator was the Devourer. It was bigger than Jupiter, a swirling, chaotic mass of absolute blackness that made the space around it look bright by comparison. Tendrils of shadow, thousands of kilometers long, were lashed onto the star's surface, siphoning rivers of plasma up into its main body. The star was screaming in electromagnetic agony. Initiating the dive. Gravity wells locked. Maximum burn. We didn't fly toward the star, we fell toward it. We angled our ships to catch the steepest part of Typhon Prime's gravity well. The acceleration was brutal. My flight suit compressed against my body, the inertial dampeners screaming to keep my bones from liquefying. We became meteors of tungsten and ceramic, streaking toward the wall of darkness. The Devourer sensed us. It wasn't used to food fighting back. Contact. The void is reacting. The massive cloud of shadow shifted. It didn't fire weapons, it manipulated reality. Pockets of intense, crushing gravity opened up in our flight path. Tendrils of condensed antimatter whipped out from the main body, trying to swat us out of the sky like flies. Evasive pattern delta. Ride the gravity waves. Do not let it touch you. I threw my ship into a violent corkscrew. A gravity shear missed my starboard wing by meters. Behind me, Ensign Davies wasn't fast enough. A tendril of shadow lashed out and simply passed through his ship. There was no explosion. The ship just ceased to be. Matter converted to void instantly. Davies is gone. Stay on target. We punched through the center. We hit the outer layer of the Devourer's body. It was like flying into a hurricane of frozen ink. My sensors went dead. The outside world became a chaotic swirl of impossible cold and blinding flashes of stolen solar energy. The ship groaned under the stress. It felt like giant, unseen hands were trying to crush the hull inward. The thermal shields were holding the cold out, but the psychic pressure of the entity was leaking through. I heard whispers in a language that predated time, urging me to just give up, to let the cold in. Ignore the voices. It's just noise. Focus on the heat signature of the star. We punched through the void cloud and emerged into the most terrifying place in the universe, the space between the Devourer and the star's surface. We were skimming the photosphere of Typhon Prime. Below us was an ocean of roiling, chaotic plasma, hotter than anything we had ever experienced. Above us was the underbelly of the cosmic horror, a ceiling of shifting shadow that was actively sucking the fire upwards. Heat critical. Shields at 60% and dropping fast. Lyra screamed. Her ship was glowing white-hot, trailing vaporized hull plating. We're almost at the injection point. Target the central feeding vortex. It's that massive sunspot dead ahead. The feeding vortex was a hole in the sun, a place where the magnetic fields had been ripped open by the entity. It was a swirling drain of fire leading directly to the star's core. The Devourer realized our plan. It focused its entire being on stopping us. The shadows above condensed into a solid wall of force, slamming down toward the sun's surface to crush us against the plasma. Boomer. Clear a path. Use the seismic charges. With pleasure, Commander. Boomer's ship, the heaviest in the squadron, pulled ahead. He released a volley of gravimetric seismic charges meant for cracking moons. They didn't hit the star, they hit the descending wall of shadow. The explosions were weird, implosions of inverted light that tore holes in the Devourer's corporeal form. The shadow writhed, shrieking across the electromagnetic spectrum, momentarily stunned. Path is clear. Final approach. Drop the hammers. We dove into the sunspot. The heat was beyond imagination. My cockpit canopy began to blister inward. Every alarm was blinking red. I was flying by pure instinct, guiding a melting bullet into the heart of a star. Payload released. Lyra yelled. Payload released. Boomer echoed. I reached the optimal depth. The magnetic pressure was immense, trying to crush the neutronium sphere before I could let it go. I hit the manual release. The ship bucked violently as tons of hyperdense matter dropped away, falling toward the star's core faster than any ship could fly. Payloads away. All units break and burn. Get to minimum safe distance. We pulled up. It was the hardest maneuver of my life. We had to fight the star's gravity and the Devourer's rage to escape the blast zone. I dumped every ounce of fuel into the engines, pushing the needle ship past its structural limits. We screamed upward, punching back through the shadow cloud, leaving a trail of burning engine parts behind us. Behind us, the poison took effect. The neutronium spheres hit Typhon Prime's core. The star's delicate fusion balance, already destabilized by the feeding, was violently disrupted by the sudden introduction of massive hyperdense gravity wells deep inside it. The star choked. It hiccuped. And then it vomited. A localized, directed supernova event erupted from the sunspot. A pillar of blinding, purifying fusion fire, wider than a planet and hotter than the Big Bang, blasted outward at a significant fraction of the speed of light. It hit the Star-Devourer dead center. The cosmic horror didn't have time to react. The entities composed of shadow and cold were instantly annihilated by the sheer thermal violence of the star's rejection. The Devourer shrieked one last time, a sound that cracked the moons of the outer planets, before its corporeal form was vaporized into elementary particles. The massive cloud of darkness burned away like fog in a nuclear blast, revealing the brilliant, angry blue star beneath. The shockwave caught us just as we cleared the system's inner edge. It was a tidal wave of light and radiation. My ship tumbled end over end, shields collapsing, systems frying. I blacked out as the G-forces crushed me into my seat. I woke up to the sound of a proximity alarm. My ship was drifting, a scorched wreck, but the life support was holding on emergency power. I looked out the fractured viewport. Typhon Prime was shining. It was angry, turbulent, and throwing off massive solar flares, but it was alive. The shadow was gone. The system was thawing. Sound off, I croaked, my throat raw. Lyra here. My ship is scrapped, Jax. But I'm alive. Boomer here. That was one hell of a firework, Commander. We drifted in the silence, 3 broken ships against the backdrop of a saved star. We had looked into the void, into the face of something that ate solar systems for breakfast, and we had choked it on its own greed. Humanity had just proven the first theorem of the celestial void. Size doesn't matter when you're willing to use a star as your personal shotgun. The universe is full of ancient, hungry monsters. But we are the species that discovered fire. And we just learned how to burn the gods. The Star-Devourer is dust. Typhon Prime burns on. The void is awake, but so are we.